I'm Richard. I in Greene. I live in Santa Fe in Seattle and part-time working in Southeast Asia. I work for international non-governmental agencies. So I worked in Vietnam as their development director from 2001 to 2004. I went to Vietnam maybe 2 months a year. And it dealt with microcredit, victims assistance, demining to United Nations standards. Peace Trees was the first to do demining authorized by the Vietnamese government. The equipment was brought over and the militia did the demining. And we brought over students who studied Vietnamese history, and they did tree planting with the rangers there. And they also played soccer with the other high schools. So it was service to learning and also diplomacy. And in Cambodia, I was senior advisor to a major funded organization, Clear Path International, which dealt strictly with victims assistance. Hospitals, women's clinics, food security in Afghanistan, prosthetics, wheelchair ramps. So, and I'm working and I'm advising a bit in Myanmar. But the concept is that it's under the horizon of Congress. Senator Leahy, who has a budget to enhance relationships with these countries. And I've written songs with Matthew Andre and other people. And Matthew and I, thanks to Yogi Bhajan as well, Matthew used to play the next country over at Peace Prayer Day. So he was influential in getting us into the 2002 Cultural Olympics. As we know, Yogi Bhajan loved music. The Peace Prayer Days, he brought Donovan and so many other singers and
Seal.
Yeah, I was going to say Seal. In fact, Matthew played with Seal when Seal was here. So all through the years, Yogi Bhajan loved life. So music, bhangra, food, the poetry, all the books he's written. It was all, that was what a great joy was being around Yogi Bhajan, because he was a lover of life and a liver of life, and he encouraged so many people to be that way. And he was regal, and he is regal, and he is my Satguru. That's important for me to say, because I didn't take the vows of a Sikh, but Yogi Bhajan was so welcoming, as well as BBG, and everybody in his Sangha, basically. He would assign people to like watch over me and make sure that wherever I went, that I was taken care of. And I traveled a lot with Yogi Ji. I traveled to India. I was at Anandapur with Kobir. '92, we visited the building of Midipiti. A group of us from Santa Fe drove out to the Sangha for a teaching of Yogi Bhajan.
What year was it?
It was late '91. In fact, that same group of 6 or 7 people went out 3 times, and I was all 3 times I went. And then the 3rd time we stopped and had tea. And we were discussing the message, discussing the teaching, and we come to realize that we all heard a different message. I said, And so the 4th time we went out, I was standing around the same group, and Yogiji said, "Richard, why are you hiding?" I said, "Why are you hiding?" So I came forward, and he looked at me, bammo. So I felt the heart connection. I felt an immediate connection with Yogi Bhajan. He would say life is mutual, so, which has been something I always say. In fact, most adherents say a lot of Yogi Bhajan quotes. And this one I felt in my heart, and I immediately felt that I was seen. Fully seen, not seen by siblings, not seen by co-workers, not seen by employees, but seen, fully seen, not with the prejudice of a want in some form, or an obligation in some form. And that permeated my consciousness, permeated my whole being. I said, oh, there's a big exhale.
And that was the first time you met him?
Yes. It was a 3rd lecture, and then he had called me, "Why are you hiding?" I can do his voice, but I won't. I enjoyed an unusual position. I believe part of why I had a lot of latitude for a decade with Yogi Bhajan was because I was an officer with Friends of Tibet, Project Tibet. And at that time, the Tibetan Resettlement Project was happening in Santa Fe, all over the country. 1,000 Tibetans were, and a lottery were chosen to be here. And Yogi Ji is a consummate politician, and I know he was part of it because Tibetans are hosted, thank God, in India. So there was an interrelationship between Project Tibet, Friends of Tibet, which is founded by Palsra Thondup and Sering Thondup, and Amritsar. And so I think, but then again, who can think and know the mind of a yogi? I mean, he is a politician, he can see the stars, he can do numerology, he's attached to the, not attached, he flows through the cosmos now and then and still now. I mean, he has special siddha of weather, which he didn't use, he eschewed using it for more cosmic reasons than I understand. Great businessman. I used to sit in a lot of meetings, Dharma meetings with Yogi Bhajan. But by being an officer of Friends of Tibet, Project Tibet, in my mind there was an access where I wouldn't find jealousy. I would probably say, maybe that's strong. But to say, oh, Richard's here, yes, he's funding this and that, but he's also in international politics. And I still have been in that field for a long time. I lived in Cambodia for a year and a half, and a lot of us do to Yogi Bhajan. He says, what are we to do? He says, serve. What's all this training for? What are these teachings for? But I was an opportune time for me for these number of years to watch a teacher teach. And yes, I was a student, but I had a very close range with Yogi Bhajan. And I get the nuances, an occasional headlock, an occasional, don't be clever, Richard. But I wasn't a friend of Yogi Bhajan's. He was my Sat teacher. And there was that line, and I knew it, and he knew it, basically. And I think I comported myself rather well around him for those years, or else you don't get invited back. Yes, I'll start off with the inclusion aspect of BBG, Kamaji, and the family. That was vitally important to me. I traveled to India. I stayed on Parmak. I stayed at BBG's condo up there and got served paranthas that are filled with ginger that Yogi Ji made that gave me instant heartburn in the morning. Fabulous, though. And so so there was a warmth, and there was a warmth and inclusion that was really heartful. So Yogi Bhajan and Sikhism was extremely attractive to me, beyond Yogi Ji's personality, which was huge and lovely and powerful. But he was a white Mahan Tantric yoga, as you know, one at a time. So he carried the lineage of Sikhism, the warrior priest, the protection of women. And Yogi Bhajan advocating making women well aware of this. He asked me to fight one of his bodyguards one time, who was a woman. And I said, I'm sorry, sir, I don't think so. And so I was a martial artist. No way. So that was part of the humor. So Sikhism to me incorporated everybody. Kabir, I mean, it incorporated great writers and poets, and I think it incorporated other religious thoughts. Gibran, within Sikhism, it was very inclusive. So it all fit in. He welcomed everybody. And so does a religion, or the pathway. And that was impressive to me. That brought me in rather quickly. Traveling with Yogi Bhajan was a lot of fun. His darbar, his court, his nurses, the whole retinue, I think that's the right word. They wanted to have fun, and they watched over him so carefully, and I watched over Yogi Bhajan too. And it's a love affair. You love your teacher, and he loves you back. And even students who are being chided for this and that, they know. They know this is a highly unique situation in life. And you know, this heart resonance that he has is resonating with your heart. So, let's see. I'll tell you a story. We went to Guadalajara. And Guadalajara streets are about ready to explode, by the way, because of all the gases and stuff, but you don't need to put that in there. Because Yogi Bhajan was a guest speaker, premier speaker at a women's conference in Mexico. And for a lot of reasons, he was needed to be there, and he spoke directly to the women. You could feel that changes needed to happen, and he was a catalyst for those changes if they listened carefully. There's abuse, spousal abuse, children were being underfed, they had no political voice. And we were sitting there, I remember with Harbhajan and Dharma and Siri Mukta and all the wonderful women who kind of guided me around from Surya to Harinam to Narinyan, and I always felt like I was watching a good way. And so we were sitting next to some people who were adherents of Krishnamurti. And when we sat down, the Krishnamurti people saw Yogi Bhajan bejeweled and fabulous and 6'4", and then all this heavies around him, lighthearted souls, heavies around him. And so they moved away. And then one by one, they came back. Yogi Bhajan and BBG used to listen to Rajni's tapes. I think it was that caliber of person, that caliber of teacher. They were all great, whether it's Sai Baba or Yogi Ji or Krishnamurti or Osha or Rajneesh. Where you're pulled, did you find your sat teacher? Did you find your true teacher that you incarnated to meet? Mine, yes, and many, many in the Sangha, yes. So it's a pretty easy answer. Me, we're in the airport, entering LA, and there's a custom agent there, and so maybe it was Harijiwan, I forget, and he says, Richard, Yogi Bhajan would like you to bring these carts, basically carts of treasure. They're masked, bejeweled statues, there's Christos, there's intricately inladen rugs, there's silver, there's gold. So I'm pushing a cart behind and pushing a cart ahead and pulling a cart behind. So I go to the green zone, nothing to declare. And so the agent looks at me and says, and he pulls me into this glass room. And Yogi Bhajan and everybody else could look through the glass wall and see I'm in there. So here I am. So I said, I have to do the Star Wars bar thing. I have to just focus on, just say exactly what I mean. And so the agent said, you didn't declare anything. I said, I have nothing to declare. They looked at me, oh, mm-hmm. And so there's 3 agents, so they're going through everything. And he says, you didn't sign any forms? I said, no, I didn't. I said, why? I said, well, these are gifts for Yogi Bhajan. He's a world leader. He's a very powerful politician. He's head of the Western Sikhs, and he's a Siri Singh sub. And he nodded to me, And then the agent was really irritated. So this went on for a while. And I glanced through the glass, and Yogi Bhajan just glanced around and looked in the agent's eyes after about 20 minutes. Looked him in the eyes, and the agent went. I said, these are gifts from the women's conference. And I said, yes, and from high politicians. And he went, going through. I don't really know what happened. I don't know if Yogi Bhajan gave him a special wink, or I have no idea what happened. With Yogi Bhajan, the impossible would happen a lot. After Gurdwara, I was walking out to my beautiful Subaru with the tinted windows. And I looked around, Yogi Bhajan's there, and with about 15 other people walking out to where I parked my car. And he said, Richard, what's in the car? I said, Sir, nothing of importance. Security opened up the back of his car. So they opened up the back of my car, and there's a gate about this big, a grate, not so fancy, a bit intricate, about this big. And he says, bring that to me. So Yogi Bhajan was holding it up and looking at it and says, this will be Guru's gate. So I knew that that gate is going to be somewhere in that gate. And I don't know if it's Armitage, I'm remiss on the names. So he took that gate and he had his artisans work on it. He said, Richard, you're not going to recognize the gate. And so about 2 months later, the gate is still there, the West Gate. It's a beautiful gate. And so the business I was in at the time was importing from India. I did this for about 6 years. And I had a privilege of gifting Yogi Bhajan. Pretty much all the gates that around the ranch or the gates I offered him. So by the grace of God, he accepted it beautifully. Except for the main gate, the one near Dharma's house, except for the main gate. And I said, I was walking out and I saw Siri Singh Sahib in his car, and I said, Siri Singh Sahib, where are you going next? He says, I'm going nowhere, Richard. You have me all gated in. Well, I met him as a man. I met him when I was 46 years old. And I respected everybody who's a student of Yogi Bhajan has that relationship. When I see them, I know that I can feel the connection he has, or they wouldn't be there. And I know that he loves him dearly. But it was different meeting him at that age. And I think I had, again, some latitude because of that, and because of being an officer in a Friends of Tibet, Project Tibet. But I don't know. I mean, who knows what's in a guru's mind. In fact, I asked him, I said, so what do you see, sir? And he says, if you could see what I could see. He says, everybody wants enlightenment. They wanted enlightenment through the 60s and the 70s. If you could see what I see. And he just shook his head. And then he said, Richard, all the questions. All the questions. And he teaches all the time. So people that went around with Yogi Bhajan learned how to barter. They learned the quality of a rug. They learned the quality of the person they are communicating with. He said it takes, I'm not sure if he said 11 seconds or 11 minutes to gauge the intelligence of a person. I'm going to guess maybe for him 11 seconds or less. He had a wonderful ability, wondrous ability to connect with people where they are and not to judge them. And when he pushed them, he would push them at a level that would accommodate them, and they would have an opportunity to rise up. He said, we're dealing with the reflection of your projection versus need and attraction. So he dealt with people at the reflective level that they truly were and could be, and if they weren't there, he knew he was just acting. He'd allow them to wait for a reply, and he would wait for them to think the reply through, because his presence was so powerful and his presence was so loving. I'm sure many people reiterate that, but that heart connection, that resonance, that healing, and everybody probably has at least 150 quotes from him. I like the one, don't try and fix your troubles, take them to the highest part of you and drop them. And he didn't belabor things. He was very good on when people wanted to start something, he would say, beyond the fake it till you make it, all the white Mercedes, and do this until you do it. He said, good, bad, or indifferent, it's an experience. He sent me overseas. He sent me to work in Southeast Asia. He didn't say, Richard, go to Southeast Asia and work. But that was what he trained me to do. And it's been a blessing for me to work and live in Southeast Asia for a number of years. He's a man of the world. And when you spend time with a man of the world, your vision expands. And the diplomats that I met who graced this table in Santa Fe or in New York or anywhere, really. Many politicians came to him, as you know. Daya Singh will probably tell you. So he trained these people too. They've expanded their lives, amplified their lives, evolved their lives, so they're getting a reflection of their projection out in the world. I think the Sangha is expanding and evolving for these times. And the times when I knew Yogi Bhajan are different times than they are now. You have people like Gujaran Singh and KRI and Kit, and who are opening up Kundalini Yoga in China, and many more I haven't mentioned, and I think it's exciting. I mean, it's better to have people calm doing Kundalini yoga, meditating, than have them out in the streets. I've been with Yogi Bhajan for 25 years, and those young faces have had children. Now these are younger faces. So I think it's a great way of life. I think, quite frankly, if I would have applied 20 teachings, if I would have gone to 20 Dharma talks from Yogi Bhajan, I could have left. If I would have lived those 20 Dharma talks. But the Sangha is vitally important. The Sangha in Buddhism, that's a boat that takes you across to the river. So the Sangha is very important. And in the relationships, the friendships, how one deals with some adversity, how one deals with small stuff, and how you coalesce around for the big stuff. It's all natural. I think he would be very delighted to see the enthusiastic and intelligent pathways people are choosing. They're preparing and they're active. They want to see this world better. They want to see no more war. They want to see good-heartedness. They want to share. They want to raise children here and all over the world in a healthy way. The times have changed. I mean, they're supposed to change. And this is Aquarian times about we and us. The I and me era is going away. It's we and us. It's fairness. Fairness is good enough sometimes. I think if the world was fair, that would be really good. We certainly don't need to bomb anybody. There's certainly enough to go around. All these myths of connections they're bullshit, really. It's like, how can a teacher be disconnected from the student? How can we be disconnected from the maker? How can we be disconnected from ourselves? We're not. How can we be disconnected from others? We're not, and we never were. Yogi Bhajan always went back to Nanak. He went back to his teachers. He went back to the lineage that he represents here in Amritsar in the world. And so he's a conduit for that wisdom. The ages just don't sort of pop up. There's different yugas, different times in Tibetan knowledge or wisdom. So Yogi Bhajan was very cautious in presenting Aquarian age light. Whatever the relationship was, whatever the love relationship was, then I could ask him questions that maybe if someone else asked him as directly as I asked them, might not be too cool. So I got a few nudges here and there to ask certain questions at certain times, which I did on my own volition. I could ask him pretty much anything. I'm not saying other people couldn't. And a lot of it wasn't talk. He was able to lift everybody up. Like I say, he burned his bones at Tantric Yoga. And 17 corporations, and Yogi Tea, and a Call Security, and Golden Temple when it first came out, and restaurants, and tech companies, and property holdings, and yes. Yeah, he's a brilliant businessman. And as well as the people, he knew the caliber of people around him, and he knew how they could mutually make something successful and people would benefit from it. And as far as Yogi Bhajan is concerned, I say he is the ultimate teacher. He is the ultimate teacher from when I met him till now and forever. That's the type of impact he had on my life and many, many lives.